The lack of friends means that have you ever noticed how silence can be louder than noise? Statistics show that nearly half of adults today report feeling lonely, even when surrounded by others. That's right. Millions of people can sit in crowded rooms, scroll through endless feeds, and still feel like no one truly sees them. But here's the twist. Sometimes it's not the absence of people that hurts. It's the absence of depth. So let me ask you, have you ever looked at your phone, realized no one had called all day, and felt a little sting in your chest? That small voice that says, maybe I'm being left behind, maybe I'm not good enough. If you felt that, you're not alone. I've been there too. I remember a season of my life when the invitations stopped coming, when the group chats went silent, and when weekends stretched out like empty highways. At first, it felt like rejection, but over time, I discovered something profound. That emptiness was actually an open doorway to strength. That's what we're diving into today. Why the lack of friends in your life isn't proof of weakness, but proof of rare strength. By the end of this, you'll see solitude not as a punishment, but as a forge, a place where resilience, wisdom, and clarity are born. Stay with me, because the last insight may completely shift how you see your quiet moments. Albert Einstein once said, "Solitude is painful in youth, but delicious in the years of maturity." He understood what so many miss, that creativity, depth, and peace thrive when noise is stripped away. And long before Einstein, the Stoics taught us the same. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "A man who is at peace with himself is never truly alone." Epictetus urged his students to guard their company carefully, reminding them that the wrong crowd could corrupt character faster than any external enemy. And Seneca, always blunt, warned that it's better to walk alone than to follow a mob rushing toward emptiness. So if the wisest minds in history leaned on solitude, maybe the quiet path you're walking isn't a flaw, it's a signal that you're built for something deeper. Let's break this down into 4 insights that reveal what the lack of friends really means. And as I go through these, I want you to imagine your own life, your own circle, and the moments where you felt both the sting of absence and the gift of silence. Insight 1. Depth doesn't thrive in shallow waters. Have you ever tried to talk about something meaningful, your values, your struggles, your vision for the future, with someone who only wants gossip or distractions? It falls flat, doesn't it? Like pouring rich wine into a paper cup. That mismatch often makes you feel out of place. But here's the truth. It's not proof you're broken. It's proof you're tuned to a different frequency.
Marcus Aurelius once said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." If your thoughts are reflective, intentional, and searching for truth, then shallow conversations will never satisfy you. Think about it. Many people bond quickly because nothing is required of them. Their friendships live on small talk, convenience, and entertainment. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just not where you belong if you're craving honesty, loyalty, and meaning. Being rare means you won't fit everywhere. And that's a good thing. If you've ever felt like your depth was too much for some circles, it's not a weakness. It's a sign that you're protecting the richness of your inner life. And maybe you've noticed this too. The more you try to dilute yourself to fit in, the more restless you feel. That's because depth suffocates in shallow waters. Insight 2. Solitude is the training ground of self-mastery. Why do so many people fear being alone? Because silence forces us to meet the one person we can't avoid: ourselves. Without constant company, distractions, or noise, we're left face to face with our own thoughts. For some, that's terrifying. But for others, for you, it's an invitation to strength. Epictetus told his students, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Why? Because walking the path of growth often looks strange to the crowd. Choosing solitude over empty company might make others whisper that you're antisocial. But the truth is, you're in training. Every moment you sit alone without crumbling, every evening you spend reading, reflecting, or simply breathing, you are building a fortress within. Let's compare. On one hand, you have someone who panics the second the room grows quiet, who needs endless chatter to feel alive. On the other hand, you have someone who can sit in silence, grounded, steady, unshaken. Which one is truly free? You know the answer. Solitude is not punishment. It is practice. It is the gym of the mind. And let me pause here. If you're finding this valuable, subscribe to Stoic Insights 365 so you don't miss the next lesson. These reflections aren't just theories. They're blueprints for building a stronger, calmer, more resilient you. Insight 3. Quality always outweighs quantity. Picture this. At one table, 20 people laugh loudly, their jokes vanishing as quickly as the sound fades. At another table, just 2 people sit in silence, their words few, but their connection real. Which table do you want to sit at? Seneca gave us the answer. Associate with people who will make a better man of you. Welcome those whom you can make better. A friendship's value isn't measured by numbers, but by nourishment. One loyal companion is worth more than 100 acquaintances. And if your phone contacts are short, if your weekends look quiet, maybe it's not emptiness, it's filtration. You're refusing to sell your energy cheaply. You're choosing quality over noise. Think about it like pruning a tree. Cutting back may make the branches look bare, but it allows stronger, healthier growth. By limiting your circle, you're not losing, you're making room for real roots. Insight 4. The right people arrive in the right season. Nature whispers this truth every day. Flowers don't bloom in winter, and fruit doesn't ripen in a single afternoon. Yet we expect deep friendships to appear instantly, as if the right people should show up on demand. But the Stoics taught us otherwise. You cannot control who enters or leaves your life. You can only remain authentic, clear in your values, steady in your principles. And when you do, your values act like a beacon. People who share your depth will eventually be drawn to your light. But here's the catch. If you constantly dim yourself to fit in with the wrong crowd, the ones who truly value you may never find you. Sometimes solitude is simply the season of standing tall, so that when the right people pass by, they see your true light, not a watered-down version. So, what does the lack of friends really indicate? It indicates you have standards, that you'd rather walk alone with dignity than crowd yourself with empty company. It is not weakness, it is proof of strength, proof that you honor your own company. Next, we're going to go deeper, because solitude isn't just about protecting yourself, it's about transforming yourself. In the next part, I'll share the Stoic habit that completely changed how I approach alone time, and it may just change your life too. Before we continue, I want to hear from you. Have you ever chosen solitude over company because you knew the group wasn't right for you? Share your story in the comments. I read every single one. And remember, great souls are rarely understood at first glance. If you feel unseen right now, don't dim your light. Stay steady, because the right eyes, the right hearts, and the right companions will find you. Last time, we uncovered why solitude is not weakness, but a forge of resilience. We explored depth, self-mastery, quality over quantity, and patience for the right people. But now let's go deeper, because solitude isn't just about protecting yourself, it's about transforming yourself. And I want to start with a personal confession. There was a period in my life when I was obsessed with filling every quiet moment. I would scroll endlessly, text people just to keep conversations alive, or say yes to gatherings I didn't even want to attend. Why? Because silence felt like a threat. Alone time felt like failure. But eventually I realized something. Every time I ran away from solitude, I was running away from myself. That was the turning point. Because once I leaned into solitude, I discovered it could become my most powerful ally. And that's the Stoic habit I want to share with you now. The practice of turning solitude into self-command. The habit of self-dialogue. Marcus Aurelius kept a private journal.
He never meant for meditations to be published. It was his way of talking to himself, holding himself accountable, and sharpening his mind. Imagine that. The most powerful man in the world writing nightly reminders like, "Don't be overheard complaining, not even to yourself." Why does this matter? Because solitude without structure can easily slip into loneliness, but solitude with practice, like journaling, reflection, or intentional breathing, becomes a workshop of the soul. Modern psychology backs this up. Studies show that expressive writing reduces stress, boosts clarity, and even strengthens immune function. When you take your swirling thoughts and put them into words, you're not just dumping feelings onto a page, you're creating order out of chaos. So here's a step you can try tonight. Grab a notebook, and instead of asking, "Why don't I have more friends?" ask, "What kind of person am I becoming when no one's watching?" That shift changes everything, because now solitude isn't emptiness, it's guidance. The fire and the forge. Imagine solitude like fire. For some, it burns them. Loneliness, despair, self-doubt. For others, it forges them. Clarity, vision, inner strength. The difference isn't the fire itself, it's how you use it. Epictetus said, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of things." Being alone isn't inherently good or bad. It's neutral. It becomes destructive or empowering depending on the meaning you assign. Think of a blacksmith. The forge is hot, loud, and uncomfortable. But in that heat, raw iron becomes steel. Your solitude is the same. It might sting at first, but if you lean into it, you come out stronger. So, the next time you feel that ache of being left out, I want you to pause and reframe. Don't ask, "Why am I alone?" Ask, "What is this fire shaping in me right now?" That's a Stoic move, turning what others see as a curse into catalyst. Reclaiming your time. Here's another truth. When you're not constantly maintaining dozens of shallow friendships, you get something precious back: time. And what you do with that time shapes your destiny. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." Think about how much time gets wasted in meaningless chatter, social obligations, or relationships that don't align with your values. If your phone is quiet, it's not just silence, it's freedom. So here's a practical exercise. Write down how many hours you spend each week on empty social interactions, scrolling group chats, saying yes to obligations you didn't enjoy, entertaining acquaintances who drain you. Now imagine reclaiming even half that time. What could you build? A new skill, a healthier body, a side business, a deeper spiritual practice? This isn't about cutting people off coldly, it's about being intentional. It's about realizing that every yes to noise is a no to growth, and your solitude is already giving you that margin. Use it. The illusion of popularity. Let's tackle another hard truth. Society tells us that popularity equals success, but the Stoics flipped that idea on its head. Seneca said bluntly, "What difference does it make how many are your admirers?
The number adds nothing to the man. Think about social media. You can have hundreds of friends and thousands of followers and still feel completely unseen. Because attention is not the same as connection, and approval is not the same as respect. So when you see others with crowded calendars or buzzing notifications, don't envy them blindly. Ask yourself, are those connections feeding them or draining them? Are they surrounded or are they truly supported? Here's the paradox. The more you build true self-mastery in solitude, the less desperate you become for external validation. And ironically, that's when the right people begin to appear. Because strength attracts strength. Athletes in solitude. Look at elite athletes. They spend countless hours training alone in gyms, on tracks, in pools. The world only sees the medals, the crowds, the applause. But those victories were built in solitude. Your life works the same way. The quiet hours you spend journaling, reading, training, reflecting, those are the unseen reps that forge your character. And one day, when challenges come or opportunities knock, people will call you lucky. But you'll know it wasn't luck. It was forged in the silence they never saw. The small test of your day. Here's a practical challenge for you. Tonight, before bed, put your phone away for 30 minutes. No scrolling, no texting, no background noise. Just you and your thoughts. Notice how uncomfortable it feels at first. Notice the itch to reach for distraction. And then, breathe. Sit with it. Journal if that's your path. Pray if that's your path. Reflect if that's your style. That simple practice is a micro version of what Marcus Aurelius did nightly. And over time, those small tests build unshakable calm. Before we close this section, let me ask, have you ever experienced a time when solitude pushed you to grow? When being alone forced you to level up in ways company never could? Share it in the comments. You never know, your story might give strength to someone else watching. And if you're finding these insights valuable, make sure to like this video and subscribe to Stoic Insights 365. By doing so, you're not just supporting the channel, you're building a daily habit of feeding your mind with wisdom instead of noise. So let's tie this together. The lack of friends doesn't just reveal strength, it gives you a rare opportunity. It hands you the gift of time, the forge of solitude, and the practice of self-dialogue. Use them wisely, and you'll come out stronger than most who are lost in endless chatter. Next, we're going to explore a paradox the Stoics knew well: why sometimes the people who seem surrounded by friends are actually the loneliest of all, and how understanding this paradox can free you from comparison once and for all.
In the last part, we explored how solitude can become a forge, how journaling, reclaiming time, and reframing silence can build unshakable self-command. But now, I want to take you into a paradox the Stoics understood long before us. The people who seem surrounded by friends are often the loneliest of all. Have you ever noticed this? Someone walks into a room and is instantly swarmed with greetings, jokes, and attention. Their social media looks like a highlight reel: parties, vacations, dinners, endless group photos. But if you look closer, you can almost see it in their eyes, a hollow space that no amount of company fills. Seneca warned us about this illusion. Crowds don't bring wisdom, they can only bring distraction. Being surrounded does not equal being supported. The difference is everything. The noise of the crowd. Imagine standing in the middle of Times Square at night, lights flashing, horns blaring, people moving in every direction. You're surrounded by thousands of bodies, but how many of them actually know your fears, your dreams, your values? None. That's what many people's social lives look like: crowded but disconnected. Marcus Aurelius saw this in his own empire. Even as emperor, constantly surrounded by advisors, guards, and citizens, he admitted in Meditations, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." Think about that. The most powerful man alive realized the crowd cannot give you what solitude can. Modern research echoes this. Psychologists call it loneliness in the crowd. Studies show people who constantly chase large groups often report higher anxiety and lower satisfaction than those who cultivate just a handful of deep bonds. Why? Because quantity can mask emptiness, but it cannot cure it. The mask we wear. Let me tell you a story. I once had a friend who was the life of the party, always hosting, always joking, always photographed with groups of people. But one evening, after everyone left, he admitted something. Sometimes I feel like I don't even exist when I'm not entertaining others. That hit me hard, because what he was describing was exactly what the Stoics warned against: building identity on external applause. Epictetus would have called it slavery. He taught, "He who seeks approval is a slave of all who give it." My friend wasn't free. He was chained to the crowd's attention. And deep down, he was lonelier than those who dared to sit quietly with themselves. So here's the paradox. It's not the quiet man who is most alone. It's often the noisy one, the one who cannot bear the silence of their own thoughts. The price of shallow friendship. Let's make this concrete. Shallow friendships often demand more energy than they give. You have to laugh at jokes you don't find funny, go places you don't care for, and suppress the deeper parts of yourself just to belong. And every time you do that, you pay a price: authenticity.
Seneca wrote, "If you are everywhere, you are nowhere." The same is true of relationships. If you spread yourself thin across countless shallow bonds, none of them anchor you. You end up surrounded, yet unsupported. Now contrast that with one true friend, someone you can sit with in silence without discomfort, someone who challenges you to grow, who doesn't flinch at your honesty, and who reflects back not who you pretend to be, but who you really are. That one person outweighs 50 names on a contact list. Comparison is the thief of peace. Here's where many of us fall into a trap. We compare our quiet lives to others' noisy ones. We scroll through feeds full of birthday dinners, reunions, and endless friend groups, and we assume they must be happier, I must be missing something. But remember, social media is the highlight reel, not the behind the scenes. The people posting those photos might have been arguing minutes before, might be faking their smiles, or might still go home and feel empty in the dark. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, do not value yourself based on what others think of you. If he had to practice this as emperor, how much more should we practice it in a world built on likes and followers? So the next time you feel envy when you see someone surrounded, stop and ask, do they have what I crave, or are they performing what I fear? That small shift can free you from comparison, turning the paradox into power. Now let's bring this back to you. If you find yourself with few friends, instead of asking, why don't I have more? Try asking, what is the quality of the ones I do have, and what am I doing with the time solitude gives me? Because here's the truth. When you stop competing for popularity, you gain something rarer, authenticity, and authenticity is magnetic. People may not swarm to it quickly, but the ones who do will stay. The circle audit. Here's a practice I recommend. Draw 2 circles. In the first, write the names of people who genuinely nourish you, those you can trust, who align with your values, who bring out your best. In the second, write the names of people who drain you, distract you, or pull you into habits you regret. Now, step back. Which circle is bigger? And more importantly, which one do you want to grow? This simple audit can clarify why your life feels quiet and whether that quiet is actually progress. Because if you're shrinking the second circle, you're not losing, you're pruning. And pruning is always uncomfortable before it bears fruit.
The Stoic view of belonging. The Stoics never said we should avoid people completely. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Man is made for community." But he didn't mean community at any cost. He meant the right kind of community, a small circle of virtue. Think of it like climbing a mountain. You don't want a crowd rushing up recklessly beside you.
You want a few steady companions, strong enough to climb with you, patient enough to rest when you rest, and wise enough to push when you falter. And until you find them, your solitude is your training ground. It's your preparation for when those true companions appear. Your next step. So, what can you do right now? Start by redefining what friendship means to you. Write down the top 3 values you want in a friend: loyalty, honesty, depth, kindness, or whatever resonates. Then measure every connection against that list. If someone doesn't align, let the distance grow naturally. If someone does, invest more deeply. That way, your life becomes less about how many people surround you and more about how many souls stand with you. Before we close, let me ask you, have you ever felt loneliest in a crowd or strongest in solitude? Share it in the comments. I'd love to hear your perspective, and I promise others will find comfort in knowing they're not alone in this paradox. And if you've found value here, hit the like button so this message can reach more people who need it. And don't forget to subscribe to Stoic Insights 365, because the next lesson could be the very one that carries you through your hardest day. In the next part, we'll shift focus. We'll explore why solitude is not just absence, but a superpower, and how history's greatest leaders, thinkers, and creators used it to achieve what crowds never could. In the last section, we uncovered the paradox that those most surrounded by friends are often the loneliest of all. Crowds can distract, but rarely nourish, while solitude, even when uncomfortable, can become a foundation for authenticity. Now, let's flip the script entirely. Let's look at solitude not as emptiness, but as a superpower. Because here's the truth. Every great thinker, leader, or creator in history, whether Stoic emperor or modern innovator, has used solitude as their secret weapon. And you can too. Why solitude is a superpower? Most people treat solitude like a punishment, as if being alone means something went wrong. But what if I told you solitude is not the absence of life, it's the amplifier of it? Think of it like noise-canceling headphones. When you put them on, the world doesn't disappear, you just finally hear what's underneath. Marcus Aurelius, sitting in his tent at night after leading legions, wrote reflections to himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Notice something? He didn't come to that realization in the middle of banquets or debates. He found it in solitude. Modern neuroscience shows us the same. The brain's default mode network, the part active during quiet reflection, lights up when we're alone. It's where creativity sparks, where problem-solving happens, where we integrate lessons into wisdom. So when the world tells you solitude is weakness, science and philosophy both whisper the opposite. Solitude is a superpower. The example of leaders.
Let's take Abraham Lincoln. Known as one of the greatest U.S. presidents, Lincoln often spent hours alone reading, writing, and walking before making decisions. His solitude wasn't laziness, it was leadership. By retreating, he sharpened clarity. Or think of Nelson Mandela. During his 27 years in prison, stripped of friends, stripped of freedom, he turned solitude into strength. When he finally emerged, he was not bitter, but resilient, prepared to guide a fractured nation. That kind of transformation doesn't happen in noise. It happens in silence. And even in the world of science, Einstein called solitude his laboratory. He once admitted, "I live in that solitude which is painful in youth, but delicious in the years of maturity." What about artists, Writers, painters, composers all rely on solitude to create. Solitude gives them space not only to produce, but to discover truths hidden beneath daily noise. From weakness to weapon. So how do you turn solitude from something that feels like weakness into something that works for you? Let's look at 3 practices the Stoics taught, practices you can start today. Practice 1. Journaling for clarity. We already touched on Marcus Aurelius's private notes. That was his superpower, writing to himself as a way of sculpting his mind. You can do the same. Spend 10 minutes a day writing about 3 things: what went well, what could improve, and what you learned. That's it. Over time, these entries become mirrors. You start seeing patterns, where you waste time, where you grow, where you need strength. And more importantly, your solitude becomes productive. Practice 2. Solitary walks. Seneca often walked alone, reflecting on philosophy while moving. And today, scientists confirm what he already knew. Walking boosts creativity by up to 60%. Why? Because movement clears mental clutter and opens space for ideas. So here's a challenge. Take 1 walk this week without music, without podcasts, without distraction. Just you, your thoughts, and the rhythm of your steps. It will feel strange at first, but give it 15 minutes and notice how problems start untangling themselves. Practice 3. The Stoic pause. Epictetus taught, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. Solitude is listening to yourself. Try this. When something angers you or triggers anxiety, instead of venting to friends right away, sit with it alone for 5 minutes, write it down, breathe through it, and then ask, is this within my control? That single pause can save you from endless drama. And over time, it trains you to rely on your own strength, not constant reassurance from others. Why few people harness this power? If solitude is so powerful, why do so few embrace it? Simple. It's uncomfortable. We're wired to seek stimulation, and solitude feels like deprivation at first. But here's the paradox. Like exercise, the very discomfort is what makes it strengthening. Think of it like weightlifting.
The first rep feels heavy, the first session awkward, but keep at it and your muscles grow. Solitude works the same way. The first quiet evening feels empty, but keep showing up and it becomes fuel. Solitude in a hyper-connected world. Now, let's address the modern problem. Today, we're more connected than ever. Texts, notifications, endless feeds. Yet loneliness is at epidemic levels. Why? Because connection has been replaced with contact. Real depth has been swapped for dopamine hits. That's why solitude is more vital today than in any age before. Without it, you drown in noise. With it, you carve out sanity. So if your phone is quiet, don't see it as failure. See it as advantage. You've already been given a rare gift, space to disconnect from the crowd and reconnect with yourself. Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs, famous for Apple's breakthroughs, often credited solitude for his clarity. He would take long walks alone before major product decisions. Imagine that. The iPhone you might be holding right now wasn't born in a boardroom. It was conceived in silence. That's the power waiting for you. Turning your solitude into a superpower today. Let's put this into action. Tonight, instead of filling your evening with distractions, try a 20-minute solitude ritual. Sit in silence, no phone, no music, just your breath. Write 1 page in a journal, your thoughts, fears, or gratitude. Ask 1 Stoic question. What is within my control right now? Close with 1 intention for tomorrow.
Do this for a week and watch how your perspective shifts. You'll notice clarity where there was confusion, strength where there was doubt, and peace where there was restlessness. Before we close this part, let me ask, have you ever had a moment of solitude that gave you an unexpected breakthrough? Maybe a decision became clear, or an idea emerged, or you finally felt peace. Share it in the comments. I'd love to see your experiences, and I know others will too. And if you're finding value here, hit the like button so more people can discover the hidden strength of solitude. And subscribe to Stoic Insights 365, because the next lesson might be the one that shifts your entire perspective on resilience. In the next part, we're going to explore the hidden danger of constant company, the way being surrounded by the wrong people can quietly sabotage your growth, and how the Stoics gave us a roadmap to guard against it. In the last part, we reframed solitude as a superpower, a tool used by emperors, leaders, scientists, and creators to sharpen clarity and build inner strength. But now let's turn to the other side of the coin. What happens when you're constantly surrounded by the wrong people? Because here's the truth. Bad company is far more dangerous than solitude ever could be. Seneca once warned, "Associate with those who will make a better man of you. Welcome those whom you self can improve."
The process is mutual, for men learn while they teach. That single reminder holds a timeless warning. The people around you will either sharpen you or dull you. There is no neutral ground. The slow poison of constant company. Have you ever noticed how moods are contagious? Spend an hour with someone who's always complaining, and suddenly your outlook feels darker. Hang around a group obsessed with gossip, and you catch yourself repeating stories that don't even matter. It happens quietly, like dye spreading through water. Epictetus nailed this truth. If you live with a lame man, you will learn to limp. He wasn't being dramatic, he was being practical. Character seeps through company, and the wrong company is like poison. It doesn't kill in one sip, but drop by drop until your strength is drained. Think about it. If solitude is a forge, then constant company can be a cage decorated with laughter, noise, and endless activity, but still a cage, because in it you can forget who you are. So why do people stay in circles that weaken them? Because the crowd offers two powerful drugs, comfort and distraction. Comfort because being alone is hard. It forces you to face your own reflection. Distraction because it drowns out the quiet voice inside you that's asking harder questions. But the Stoics remind us, growth never happens in comfort zones, and clarity never comes from distraction. If you're always surrounded, you're rarely listening to yourself, to wisdom, or to life. Guard your gates. The Stoics often compared the mind to a fortress. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. But what good is a fortress if the gates are left wide open?" Guarding your mind means guarding your company, because ideas, habits, and emotions slip in through people. If you don't filter who enters your circle, you're not protecting your fortress, you're inviting invaders. Peer pressure in adults. We often think of peer pressure as something teenagers deal with, but let's be honest, it doesn't vanish with age. Adults feel it too, just in subtler ways. The coworker who mocks your discipline for leaving early to work out. The friend who pressures you into spending money you don't have. The group that rolls their eyes when you talk about growth, books, or discipline. It may not look like high school, but the pressure is real, and if you let it, it pulls you down. Why solitude is safer than wrong company. Here's a radical truth. It's better to be alone than in poorly accompanied, because solitude may challenge you, but it won't corrupt you.
The wrong people, however, can slowly erode your values until you don't even recognize yourself. Seneca again. It is better to be alone than in bad company. He knew that loneliness in virtue is better than popularity in vice.
And here's the irony. When you stand firm, refusing the wrong circles, you actually make space for the right ones to appear. The hidden cost of shallow circles. Let's look at what shallow company costs you. Time. Hours wasted on conversations that don't build you. Energy. Constantly pretending, performing, or holding back your true self. Focus. Distractions that pull you away from your goals. Identity. Slowly becoming a reflection of the group, not your authentic self. Now, compare that with solitude. Solitude gives you time, renews energy, sharpens focus, and reveals identity. See the contrast? One drains, the other builds. The social fast. Here's a challenge I want you to try. A 7-day social fast. No, this doesn't mean cutting off everyone. It means intentionally stepping back from any group or person who leaves you drained. Spend that time instead in solitude or with people who genuinely uplift you. At the end of the week, reflect. How do you feel? Lighter? Stronger? Clearer? Most people discover that the absence of constant noise feels like breathing fresh air for the first time in years. The courage to choose loneliness. Let's be real, walking away from shallow company isn't easy. It feels like stepping into loneliness. But here's the Stoic perspective. Temporary loneliness is the price of permanent strength. Epictetus reminded his students, if you wish to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. That includes being judged for choosing solitude. People may whisper, call you distant, even criticize, but their opinions are not chains unless you let them be. And when you can sit in solitude without fear, when you can say no to wrong company without guilt, that's when you know you're truly free. Cato the Younger. Cato the Younger, a Stoic statesman in Rome. He refused to compromise his principles, even when surrounded by powerful men who mocked him. He often stood alone in the Senate, opposing corruption and greed. People thought him rigid, even foolish. But centuries later, he's remembered as a man of incorruptible virtue. His solitude wasn't weakness, it was his shield. And you can practice the same today. Your circle may shrink, your weekends may look quieter, but your character will stand taller. Your next step. So here's what I want you to do. Take inventory of your circle. Who sharpens you? Who drains you? Then make one decision this week. Reduce time with the draining and increase time with the nourishing. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It can be as simple as saying no to one invitation or reaching out to one person who brings you peace. And if your circle feels small right now, don't despair. Remember what we said earlier. Nature takes time. Flowers don't bloom instantly. The right people come when you're standing authentically in your values. Until then, solitude is safer than shallow company.
Before we close, let me ask you, have you ever walked away from a group that drained you, even though it felt scary at first? What did you discover afterward? Share your experience in the comments. You never know who might draw strength from your story. And if this is resonating, hit the like button so this message reaches others stuck in draining circles. Don't forget to subscribe to Stoic Insights 365, because the next lesson might just be the one that frees you from old patterns once and for all. In the next part, we'll explore something powerful: how to build a small but strong inner circle, the kind of friendships the Stoics believed were worth more than gold. You'll see how fewer bonds can actually mean greater strength, and how to start cultivating those rare connections in your own life. In the last part, we uncovered the hidden dangers of constant company, the way shallow circles drain your time, energy, and even your identity. We saw how solitude is safer than bad company, and why walking away is often the braver choice. But solitude is not the end of the story, because eventually the goal is not to stay isolated forever. It's to build a small but strong inner circle. The Stoics didn't avoid people altogether. They were careful gardeners, planting only what would grow, pruning away what would choke their character. Why fewer means stronger? Let's begin with a question. Would you rather drink from a river that's wide but shallow, or from a spring that's narrow but pure? Friendship works the same way. Many people chase width, hundreds of contacts, dozens of social groups. But the Stoics taught us to chase depth. Seneca once wrote, "Ponder for a long time whether you shall admit a given person to your friendship, but when you have decided to admit him, welcome him with all your heart and soul." That's the blueprint. Don't rush to collect, but once you find the right one, invest fully. Think about your own life. How many people truly know your values, your struggles, your growth? Probably only a handful. And that handful is worth more than any crowd. The power of the inner circle. Marcus Aurelius, despite being emperor, had just a few trusted advisors and friends. He wasn't surrounded by endless companions. He chose carefully. And Epictetus, once a slave, reminded his students that the key is to keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best. Why? Because the right inner circle acts like a mirror and a compass. They reflect who you are and guide who you're becoming. A single wise friend can correct you, encourage you, and steady you when storms hit. The wrong friend? They magnify your weaknesses and distract you from your path. Navy SEAL teams. Take elite military units like the Navy SEALs. They don't rely on large numbers. They rely on small, tightly bonded teams. Each member trusts the other with their life. That trust doesn't come from being surrounded by many. It comes from being sharpened by few.
Your life doesn't need a crowd. It needs a team, a small circle of people who challenge, inspire, and hold you accountable. How to build your inner circle. So, how do you build such a circle in today's noisy world? Let's break it into steps. Step 1. Define your values. You can't build wisely if you don't know what you're building for. What do you want in a friend? Loyalty? Honesty? Growth? Write it down. Seneca said, "If you are to make a man your friend, you must trust him as you would yourself." That level of trust requires clarity. Step 2. Test through time. Don't rush. The Stoics advised patience. Seneca again, "There is no enjoying the possession of anything valuable unless one has someone to share it with." But he also warned to test a potential friend before giving your heart. Time reveals character faster than words. So watch. How do they act under stress? Do they celebrate your wins without envy? Do they correct you with love instead of flattery? These are the tests. Step 3. Invest fully. Once you've chosen, commit. In our era of ghosting and half-hearted bonds, true loyalty is rare. But when you show up fully, listening deeply, supporting consistently, you plant roots, and roots create resilience. Step 4. Prune without guilt. Not everyone belongs in your circle forever. Some people are for a season, not a lifetime, and that's okay. The Stoics remind us to accept impermanence without bitterness. If someone no longer aligns with your values, release them gracefully. You're not betraying them, you're staying true to your path. The balance of solitude and friendship. Here's something vital. Solitude and friendship aren't opposites, they're partners. Solitude strengthens you. Friendship refines you. Time alone builds your inner fortress. Time with the right circle tests and sharpens it. Think of it like a sword. Alone in the forge, it gains shape. But when clashed against other swords in practice, it gains edge. Without solitude, you stay dull. Without friends, you stay untested. You need both. The courage to build slowly. Let me tell you something from my own journey. There was a time when I tried to force friendships, inviting people into my circle too quickly just to fill the silence. Every time, it ended in disappointment. Why? Because I valued speed over depth. But when I slowed down, when I stopped chasing, the right people began to appear. Not many, but a few. And those few became anchors in my life. If you feel your circle is small right now, don't panic. The Stoics would say, better small and strong than wide and hollow. Building slowly is not a delay, it's a foundation. The 3 chairs. Here's a visual exercise for you. Imagine 3 chairs. In the first, sit someone who drains you, leaves you weaker. In the second, sit someone neutral, pleasant, but no real growth. In the third, sit someone who inspires you, sharpens your mind, strengthens your spirit. Now ask, which chair do I spend the most time with? Which chair do I want to grow?
This simple reflection can change the way you approach your relationships. Lamius and Scipio. Cicero, though not a Stoic, admired their wisdom. He once wrote of Lamius and Scipio, 2 Roman statesmen who shared a deep bond rooted in virtue. Their friendship endured trials, politics, and wars because it was built on shared values, not convenience. That's what the Stoics celebrated. Friendships anchored in virtue, not entertainment. And that's what you can aim for today. 1 or 2 bonds like that outweigh dozens of casual contacts. Your next step. So here's what I want you to do this week. Choose 1 person who aligns with your values and invest deeper. Maybe it's a meaningful conversation, a small act of support, or simply expressing gratitude. Strengthen the bond intentionally. At the same time, reduce energy spent on someone who weakens you. That doesn't mean dramatic exits. It can be as simple as less time, fewer replies, less energy. Slowly, you'll notice your circle reshaping. Before we close, let me ask, who are the 1 or 2 people in your life who truly strengthen you? Write their names down, and if you feel bold, tell them directly. Acknowledging them not only deepens the bond, but also reminds you of the rare strength already present in your life. And if you found value here, like this video so that others can start building their own strong circles. Subscribe to Stoic Insights 365 because in the next lesson, we're going to explore the final piece of the puzzle. How to use solitude and true friendship together to live with unshakable resilience in a chaotic world. In the last part, we saw how building a small but strong inner circle gives you something far more powerful than a crowd ever could. Real strength, loyalty, and growth. But here's the question. How do you balance solitude and friendship? Because if solitude sharpens you and friendship refines you, how do you weave them together into a life that is both grounded and resilient? The Stoics gave us a beautiful answer. Solitude and friendship are not rivals. They are 2 wings of the same bird. Alone, you can fly short distances. Together, they lift you into the skies of resilience. The danger of extremes. First, let's be clear. Both extremes are dangerous. A life of constant solitude risks becoming detached, bitter, even arrogant. A life of constant company risks becoming shallow, dependent, and scattered. Marcus Aurelius wrote that men should be upright, not kept upright. That means you should be able to stand alone. But he also wrote, men are made for each other. That means you should also open yourself to others. Strength is not found in choosing one wing over the other. It's in learning to balance them both. How solitude strengthens friendship. Have you ever noticed that the people who make the best friends are often those who are comfortable being alone? Why? Because they don't enter relationships out of neediness. They bring fullness, not emptiness.
When you're secure in solitude, you don't demand your friends fill every gap. You don't cling. You don't beg for constant validation. Instead, you bring a steady presence. That's why solitude is the best preparation for friendship. It teaches you to value your own company first, so you never exploit others for it. Seneca captured it well. When friendship is settled, you must trust. Before friendship is formed, you must pass judgment. That judgment is hard to make if you're terrified of being alone. But when you're at peace in solitude, you can choose friends wisely, not out of fear, but out of strength. How friendship strengthens solitude. But friendship also strengthens solitude, because true friends don't disturb your silence. They deepen it. Have you ever sat with someone in quiet and felt no need to fill the air? That's the kind of friendship the Stoics praised. It's not about constant chatter, it's about shared presence. A real friend doesn't pull you away from yourself. They help you return to yourself more fully. In that sense, friendship doesn't break solitude, it sanctifies it. The example of Marcus and Rusticus. Marcus Aurelius often wrote about his gratitude to Rusticus, his mentor and friend. Rusticus didn't entertain him with distractions. He sharpened his thinking, corrected his errors, and encouraged his practice of philosophy. Their bond shows the balance. Marcus, an emperor, spent many hours alone writing meditations. But in Rusticus, he found a companion who made his solitude more fruitful. That's what the right friendship does. It doesn't drag you away from the forge. It helps you carry the sword once it's sharpened. Modern parallel, accountability partners. Think about fitness. Many people train alone, building discipline. But those who also have an accountability partner, someone who checks in, encourages, and trains alongside, are more consistent. The solitude builds discipline. The friendship sustains it. Life works the same way. Solitude builds your clarity. Friendship sustains your commitment. Alone, you discover your values. Together, you live them out. The solitude-friendship cycle. Here's a framework you can practice. Retreat. Spend intentional time alone, journaling, reflecting, grounding yourself. Return. Re-enter your circle, bringing clarity and presence. Refine. Let trusted friends sharpen, challenge, or encourage you. Retreat again. Return to solitude, integrating what you've learned. This cycle prevents both extremes. Too much solitude without return breeds isolation. Too much friendship without retreat breeds dependency. Together, they form resilience. The psychological proof. Modern psychology confirms this. Studies show that people who balance alone time with quality social connections report the highest levels of well-being. Those with constant company but no solitude report burnout. Those with constant solitude but no bonds report depression. The sweet spot is both.
Exactly what the Stoics lived centuries ago. The weekly check-in. Here's something you can try. Each week, ask yourself 2 questions. Did I give myself enough solitude to reflect? Did I nurture at least one true bond with honesty and presence? If the answer is no to either, adjust. Add an evening of quiet. Call a trusted friend. Over time, this rhythm creates balance. Epictetus and his students. Epictetus, though living much of his life in modest solitude, always invited students to share his reflections. He knew wisdom alone could turn rigid, but wisdom shared becomes alive. His community was small but powerful. Students left his presence not entertained but transformed. That's the model. Solitude deepened by shared practice. Your next step.
So what do you do with this? Start small. Protect your solitude, make it sacred. But also identify one person who deserves more of your presence. Invest in both this week. Journal one night, call one friend another night. Watch how the two wings begin to balance. And remember, resilience isn't built in crowds, and it isn't built in caves. It's built in the dance between solitude and friendship. Alone, you forge. Together, you soar. Before we close, let me ask you, which side do you struggle with more, protecting solitude or cultivating true friendships? Write it in the comments. You may find you're not the only one wrestling with the balance. And if this spoke to you, like this video so more people can find strength in both solitude and community. Subscribe to Stoic Insights 365, because in the next lesson, we'll take this one step further. We'll explore how to transform your solitude and friendships into a larger mission, a life that not only strengthens you, but also leaves a mark on the world. In the last part, we discovered that solitude and friendship are two wings of the same bird. Alone, you sharpen. Together, you soar. But here's the question that follows. What's the point of strength if it doesn't serve a purpose beyond yourself? The Stoics believed resilience was not just about personal peace, it was about preparing to contribute to the world. From fortress to lighthouse. Think of solitude as building a fortress. It protects you, keeps you safe, and helps you stand firm. But the Stoics didn't stop at fortress building. They turned fortresses into lighthouses. They believe that once you've built inner strength, your duty is to radiate it outward, to guide, to serve, to leave a legacy. Marcus Aurelius put it plainly, what is not good for the hive is not good for the bee. He knew that personal peace means little if it doesn't connect to the larger whole. Your solitude is not selfish, it's training for service. Why strength must flow outward? Imagine training for years in solitude, cultivating wisdom, discipline, and calm. Then imagine never using it for anything beyond your own peace. That's like sharpening a sword and leaving it on the shelf. The Stoics warned against this.
Epictetus said, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." That's the transition from self-mastery to world impact, from fortress to lighthouse. Your circle becomes your mission. Remember your small inner circle? Once you've built it, it becomes the training ground for something bigger. You learn how to bring strength into conversations, how to show calm under pressure, how to model discipline when others are wavering. This doesn't mean preaching philosophy at everyone. It means living in such a way that your presence changes the room. Think about it. When someone steady walks into chaos, everyone feels it. That could be you. The calm leader. Think about leaders in business, politics, or even families. The ones people respect most are not those who shout the loudest. They're the ones who stay calm when storms hit. The parent who steadies the household. The manager who keeps perspective under stress. The friend who listens instead of rushing to react. That kind of calm doesn't come from crowds. It comes from solitude. But it shines in relationships. That's how you transform personal strength into collective resilience. The Stoic blueprint for purpose. The Stoics left us a roadmap for turning personal resilience outward. Master yourself, solitude, reflection, control of your mind. Choose your circle. Deep friendships anchored in virtue. Expand to community. Bring your strength into the larger hive. It's a progression, alone, with few, with many. Skip the first two, and you end up trying to save the world while drowning yourself. But follow it step by step, and you become a beacon. How to start living as a lighthouse. Here's the good news. You don't need a stage, a crown, or an empire to live this way. You can start in small ways. At work, instead of joining in gossip,
Be the steady one who redirects focus. At home, when tempers flare, model calm by pausing before speaking. With friends, encourage growth instead of settling for shallow habits. Seneca said, "He who gives to others will find himself enriched. By bringing your strength outward, you multiply it." The daily extension. Here's a practice I want you to try for a week. Each morning, in solitude, ask yourself, where can I bring calm, clarity, or courage today? Write one answer. At night, reflect. Did I do it? It could be as simple as encouraging a colleague, listening to a child without distraction, or choosing patience in traffic. Small, yes, but daily acts of resilience ripple outward. Resilience in service. Epictetus often reminded his students that philosophy is not theory, it's preparation for life. Your solitude is training. Your friendships are sparring partners. But the real test is in the world. And here's the paradox. The more you give your strength outward, the stronger it becomes. Like a muscle, resilience grows by use, not by storage. Marcus on the battlefield.
He spent years on the battlefield with his soldiers, enduring cold, hunger, and uncertainty. In his tent, he wrote to himself about patience, duty, and perspective. But he didn't keep it to himself. He modeled it for his men. Soldiers recorded that they admired not just his authority, but his steadiness. His solitude became their shield. That's the blueprint for us. Build within, share without. Your next step. Define your mission. So here's what I want you to do now. Ask yourself, what small mission can my strength serve today? It doesn't have to be grand. Maybe it's raising a family with calm, building a business with integrity, or simply being a source of peace in a noisy world. Write it down. When solitude feels heavy, remind yourself this is not just for me. This is preparation for the impact I'm called to have. Before we close, let me ask, who in your life has been a lighthouse for you? A presence that steadied and guided you when you needed it most? Share their story in the comments. Your words may honor them and inspire someone else to become that kind of presence. And if you found this valuable, like this video so the message spreads. Subscribe to Stoic Insights 365, because in the next lesson, we're moving toward the final chapters, where we'll reveal the most powerful Stoic secret of all, how to find freedom even in a world you can't control. In the last part, we talked about turning your solitude and friendships into something greater, a mission that leaves a mark on the world. We saw how strength isn't meant to stay locked inside a fortress. It's meant to shine like a lighthouse. Now we arrive at one of the deepest Stoic truths, the one that has guided countless people through storms. Freedom is not found in controlling the world. It's found in controlling your response to it. The illusion of control. Let's be honest. How much of your stress comes from trying to control things you simply can't? People's opinions, outcomes of situations, the past, even the future. We carry these weights like they belong to us. And when they don't bend to our will, we suffer. Marcus Aurelius wrestled with this every day as emperor. Imagine leading an empire of millions, with wars on the borders, plagues in the streets, and constant political pressure. Yet he reminded himself daily, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That's the Stoic pivot. True freedom begins the moment you stop demanding the world obey you. The circle of control. Modern psychology echoes this with what's called the circle of control. Inside the circle are your actions, your choices, your attitudes. Outside are everything else. Weather, other people's behavior, the economy. Stress comes when you pour energy outside the circle. Peace comes when you double down inside it. Epictetus said it more bluntly. Some things are up to us, and some things are not. That single line is a lifetime's worth of wisdom.
So here's the practice. Whenever you feel tension, ask, is this within my control?
If yes, act. If no, release. Simple, but life-changing. A story of letting go. I remember a season where I kept replaying an argument in my head. Someone close to me had misunderstood me badly, and I wanted so badly to fix it, to rewrite their opinion, to prove my side. Days turned into weeks, and the stress ate at me. Until finally, I sat with Epictetus's words, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it, that matters." I couldn't change their mind. I couldn't edit their perception, but I could choose my peace. And when I finally released the outcome, the weight lifted. That's freedom. Not the power to control others, but the power to stop being chained to what you cannot change. Why this matters for resilience. Here's the paradox. The less you try to control the uncontrollable, the stronger you become in what you can control. You conserve energy. You focus it. You stop scattering yourself across impossible tasks, and you start winning in the arena that matters, your own choices. Seneca said, "He suffers more than necessary who suffers before it is necessary." How much of your life is lost in anticipation, worrying about what might happen? The Stoics remind us, worry is wasted suffering. Act when you can, release when you cannot. The two lists. Here's a tool you can use today. Draw two lists. At the top of the first, write what I can control. At the top of the second, what I cannot control. Now, whenever you face stress, write it down. If it belongs on the second list, cross it out. Not because it doesn't exist, but because it doesn't deserve your energy. Focus only on the first. Over time, this trains your mind to stop feeding what drains you. The freedom of response. Let's take this deeper. Not only can you choose what to focus on, you can choose how to respond. Someone insults you, you can flare up, or you can pause and ask, does their opinion change my worth? Traffic jams your commute, you can stew in anger. Or you can use the time to breathe, reflect, even practice gratitude. The world doesn't hand you freedom, but every choice you make can. And each time you choose response over reaction, you step closer to the Stoic ideal, unshakable calm in a shaking world. Viktor Frankl. Think of Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and psychologist. In the most brutal conditions imaginable, he discovered the last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. He wrote, "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances." That is Stoicism in modern form. They can take your possessions, your status, even your freedom of movement, but they cannot take your choice of response. And in that choice lies the essence of resilience. Your solitude, your circle, and now your freedom. Let's tie this together.
Friendship sharpens your edge, but freedom, the recognition of what is and isn't in your control, that's the key that unlocks the door. Without it, you remain chained to outcomes, opinions, and illusions. With it, you walk through life lighter, calmer, stronger. The daily release. Here's a practice for the next 7 days. Each night, ask yourself, what did I waste energy on today that wasn't in my control? Write it down, then write, I release this. It might feel small, even symbolic, but over time it retrains your brain. You'll start catching yourself in the moment before the stress grows. And when you release what's outside your control, you free energy to focus where it matters. Your next step. So here's the step I want you to take right now. Think of one stress that's been haunting you. Ask, is this within my control? If yes, decide your next action. If no, take a deep breath and let it go.
because the world will always swirl with chaos, but freedom begins the moment you stop fighting storms you can't command. Before we close, let me ask, what's one area of your life where you know you've been trying to control the uncontrollable? Share it in the comments. Naming it is the first step to releasing it. And if you found this powerful, hit the like button so others can discover this secret. Subscribe to Stoic Insights 365 because in the final part, we're going to bring everything together. You'll see how solitude, friendship, and freedom fit into one Stoic blueprint, a way of living that builds not just resilience, but unshakable peace. We've walked a long journey together. We started with the sting of solitude, uncovered its hidden strength, exposed the illusion of crowds, built a small but strong circle, and discovered the Stoic path to freedom, choosing what is and isn't in your control. Now it's time to bring it all together, because these aren't just fragments of wisdom, they're pieces of a single Stoic blueprint for living with unshakable peace. The 3 pillars of resilient living. If we had to distill everything into one framework, it would be this. Solitude as the forge. This is where you sharpen your mind, build inner calm, and learn to stand alone. Friendship as the compass. This is where you refine yourself with others, choosing depth over crowds, and aligning with virtue. Freedom as the crown. This is where you stop being chained to what you can't control and begin to live in true power, choosing response over reaction. Together, these 3 form a circle. Solitude strengthens you for friendship. Friendship refines you for freedom. Freedom returns you to solitude, deeper, calmer, wiser. It's not a straight line, it's a cycle of resilience. Life as training. The Stoics didn't believe life was about comfort. They believed life was training. Marcus Aurelius saw every day as practice. Practice for patience, for courage, for justice, for wisdom. That's why he could face betrayal, loss, and even death with dignity.
He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." And he lived it. His solitude kept him grounded. His trusted circle kept him sharp. His freedom of response made him unshakable. That's the same path available to you. Resilience is built, not born. Here's the final secret I promised you. Resilience isn't something you're born with. It's something you build, day by day, choice by choice. People look at Stoics and think they must have been naturally strong. But read Marcus's Meditations, and you'll see. He doubted. He wrestled. He stumbled. He didn't write because he was perfect. He wrote because he was practicing. And that's your call too. Don't wait to feel perfectly strong before you live these truths. Start where you are, with the solitude you have, the friends you have, the challenges in front of you. Every small practice compounds. Practical blueprint for daily life. Let's put this into a daily routine you can start tomorrow. Morning solitude. Begin with 10 minutes of reflection. Ask, what's within my control today? Write one intention. Daytime friendship. In your work, family, or friendships, choose one moment to bring depth. Listen fully. Speak honestly. Or encourage growth. Evening freedom. Before bed, release. Ask, what did I waste energy on that I couldn't control? Write it down, let it go. Repeat this cycle. Over weeks, you'll notice a shift. Less reaction, more calm. Less noise, more clarity. The role of legacy. Remember, the Stoics didn't just seek peace for themselves. They sought to live lives that mattered. Seneca wrote, "As is a tale, so is life. Not how long it is, but how good it is what matters." So ask yourself, When others look back on your life, will they see someone who was tossed around by crowds and chaos? Or someone who stood firm in solitude, chose friends wisely, and lived free from chains of opinion and outcome? That's the legacy you're building, starting now. Let me share one final story. Picture Marcus Aurelius during the Antonine Plague, watching citizens panic as death spread through Rome. He could not control the plague. He could not erase loss, but he could control his presence. And so he stayed calm, led with dignity, wrote reminders to himself about duty and compassion. His people saw it, and in their darkest hours, his calm became their anchor. That's the invitation for you. You may not face plagues or empires, but you face storms of your own, personal, professional, emotional. And in those storms, your calm can be an anchor for others. Your resilience can ripple outward. So, here's my challenge to you. Take one practice from this series: solitude journaling, circle auditing, daily release, and commit to it for the next 30 days. Track your growth, notice the changes, and share them, because resilience multiplies when we model it for others. Before we close this journey, let me ask, which Stoic truth hit you hardest in this series?
Was it the power of solitude? The need to prune shallow circles? The freedom of releasing control? Share it in the comments. Your answer might spark someone else's breakthrough. And if this series has brought you value, subscribe to Stoic Insights 365, because this isn't the end. It's just the beginning of your practice. Like the Stoics, we don't chase applause. We build what the world can't ignore. So walk forward with dignity. Protect your solitude. Choose your circle. Guard your freedom. Because in the end, the greatest Stoic secret is this: peace is not given, it is built. And now you have the blueprint. Remember Seneca's words: he who has peace within himself is free. Carry that, live that, and let it echo in every choice you make.